6 months had passed since the day the skies turned dark with Drazari ships. Earth was not the same anymore. Once proud cities now stood as broken shells, their towers fallen and streets empty except for the alien patrols that moved through, them like disease through a wounded body. In the depths below Seoul, where the rumble of alien ships could still be felt through 50 meters of concrete and steel, Director Park stared at the holographic map showing the remains of human resistance. His eyes were tired, his uniform worn at the edges, but his back remained straight as steel. "They've taken the western seaboard completely," said his aide, pointing to the red zones that covered what was once California and Oregon. "Our last stronghold in Seattle went dark yesterday," Park nodded slowly. He was a man of few words, especially now when each defeat felt like another nail in humanity's coffin. The room around him buzzed with quiet determination. 30 men and women working at stations that had been hastily assembled in this former subway expansion project. This was what remained of Earth's unified command. "And the Asian defense line?" Park asked, his voice rough from too little sleep. "Holding. Sir, the mountain bunkers are still ours. The Drazari don't like fighting in rough terrain. A small victory, but Park would take it. Every day they survived was another day they could plan, another day Dr. Lee and her team could work on their secret project. Far above Earth, in the massive, spinning ring of the Galactic Council's celestial spire, Ambassador Kim stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He was the last official representative of Earth, allowed to remain only so the Council could have someone to deliver their terms of surrender to. Around him, aliens of 200 species filled the grand chamber, their forms ranging from the nearly human to the utterly bizarre. "The primitive Earth forces continue their pointless struggle," Lord Toll was saying. His scaled face projected on the massive screens around the chamber. The Drazari's voice rasped through translator systems. "But we have broken their major militaries, destroyed their governments. It is merely a matter of time before the last pockets of resistance are crushed." Kim bit his tongue until he tasted blood. He had learned quickly that outbursts earned him nothing here. The Council had rules, procedures, and none of them favored the newest, weakest species in the galaxy, especially not one being systematically conquered by the Drazari, who had powerful allies in the chamber. "And the civilian casualties?" asked. "The representative of the Nor Collective, a species of floating light forms contained in crystalline shells." Lord Toll made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. "Minimal. We are a civilized empire. Once the humans accept their place, they will be treated as all Drazari subjects are." Kim knew what that meant. Humans would become workers, resources, maybe even food for the empire that had attacked without warning or reason. He also knew something Lord Toll didn't, something even most humans didn't know. Back on Earth, in a bunker carved into a mountain in what was once called Norway, Dr. Lee hunched over a dissected piece of Drazari technology. Her small hands moved with precise care as she separated the alien metal from its power source. Around her, a team of 20 scientists and engineers watched in silence. "There," she said, holding up the pulsing blue core. "Their shield generator draws power differently than we thought. It's not constantly active. It pulses at 90 microsecond intervals." She looked up, a small smile forming on her tired face. "That means there's a gap. A tiny one, but it's there." One of the engineers, a young man with burn scars covering, half his face leaned forward. "Can we exploit it?" "Better," Dr. Lee said. "We can copy it, improve it, and use it ourselves. Their technology isn't as advanced as they want us to believe. It's just different." This was happening in bunkers across what remained of free Earth. While the Drazari believed they were hunting down the last military resistance, humanity's brightest minds were taking apart everything alien they could find: weapons, shields, communication devices, even the remains of their ships. Learning, adapting, preparing. In the hills outside what had once been Tokyo, a group of survivors had salvaged a Drazari scout ship. The aliens believed it destroyed in combat, but skilled pilots had forced it down mostly intact. Now, human hands were learning to control alien systems, finding ways to make them work for people they were never designed for. In the Amazon, where dense jungle provided cover from Drazari scanners, farmers worked alongside soldiers to grow food for the resistance. They had discovered that certain earth plants caused interference with Drazari sensor technology, a fact now being used to hide major human installations. Director Park knew all of this through the fragile communication network they'd established using modified ham radios and repurposed Drazari parts. The aliens controlled the major communication channels, but humans had centuries of experience with simpler technologies the invaders often overlooked. "Sir," called a communications officer. "Message from Bunker 7. Dr. Lee reports success." With the shield prototype, Park felt something he hadn't felt in months: hope. Not just the desperate hope that had kept him going day after day, but real, tangible hope based on progress. "Tell Dr. Lee to proceed with production," he ordered. "And contact all resistance cells. Operation Daybreak begins planning phase." While the Drazari celebrated their victory, and Lord Toll boasted to the Galactic Council, humanity was not beaten. They were adapting, learning, and preparing to strike back. The invaders had no idea what was coming. The mountain wind cut cold through the camouflage netting as Colonel Jun studied the valley below through his binoculars. 3 Drazari patrol ships moved in formation, their hulls gleaming purple-black against the green landscape. They were searching, as always, but today they would find something they weren't expecting. "They're approaching Checkpoint 4, Jun," said quietly to the radio operator beside him. "Tell the teams to hold position until my signal." The young woman nodded, whispering the commands into her headset, a strange mix of human military gear and salvaged Drazari tech. Around them, 20 fighters waited in perfect stillness, their weapons ready but hidden from view. June had been a regular army officer before the invasion, logistics and supply, not special forces. Now he commanded one of Earth's most effective guerrilla units, a collection of former soldiers, police officers, and ordinary people who had found new strength in the face of alien occupation. They had learned hard lessons these past months, paid for in blood, but they had learned. 5 kilometers away, in what had once been a ski resort maintenance shed, Engineer Hyun worked furiously to complete his final adjustments. His hands moved, with practiced speed over the curved metal of a Drazari pulse rifle. "Hand me the converter," he said to his assistant, not looking up from his work. The assistant placed a small device in Hyun's outstretched hand, a human-made adapter that looked crude next to the sleek alien technology. Hyun fitted it into place, then closed the weapon's access panel. "That's the last one," he said, placing the rifle with 5 others on the workbench. 6 shots per charge instead of 4, and the energy signature is masked. The Drazari won't be able to track them back to us after they're fired. His assistant smiled tightly. "Will the modifications hold?" Last time I hadn't figured out how their power regulation works," Hyun interrupted. "These will hold." He checked his watch. "Get them to the delivery point. June's team will be waiting." Above Earth's atmosphere, an unremarkable council observation vessel descended toward the planet. Inside, Xinthan diplomat Greel adjusted his environmental suit with obvious distaste. "Remind me why we're risking our lives to observe a conquered species," he said to his pilot. "Council orders," the pilot replied simply. "Some of the elder members wanted eyes on the ground, not just Drazari reports." Greel made a sound that translated roughly to a snort. "Waste of resources. The humans barely achieved space travel before the Drazari arrived. What could they possibly do against a galactic power?" The pilot didn't answer, focused on navigating through the debris field that now surrounded Earth, the remains of human satellites and space stations mixed with pieces of Drazari ships brought down in the initial battles. Back in the mountains, Colonel Jun's radio crackled. "Weapons are in position, sir. Teams ready." Jun gave a short nod. "Begin Operation Turnabout." Below in the valley, as the Drazari patrol ships passed over a seemingly empty stretch of forest, a series of electromagnetic pulses, based on the Drazari's own technology but modified to target their specific systems, shot upward from hidden emitters. The ship's engines sputtered and died, sending them crashing into the clearing below. June watched as the confused Drazari troops poured out of their damaged vessels, tentacle limbs waving, in alarm as they tried to establish a defensive position. They were good soldiers, well-trained and disciplined, but they were fighting on human territory now, Phase 2, June said into his radio. From 6 different positions around the clearing, human fighters fired the modified Drazari weapons. The aliens' own shield technology, reversed and amplified, protected the humans from return fire. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. Watching through surveillance equipment from his cloaked ship, Greel could hardly believe what he was seeing. The humans weren't just fighting, they were using modified Drazari technology against its makers, and using it better than the Drazari themselves. "Are you recording this?" he demanded of his crew. Every second, his communications officer confirmed. When the last Drazari soldier fell, human fighters emerged from the forest. They moved with practiced efficiency, gathering weapons and supplies, downloading data from the patrol ship's computers, and placing charges to destroy what they couldn't take. "They're not just resisting," Greel said more to himself than his crew. "They're studying, learning, adapting." He turned to his communications officer. "Send this footage to the Council immediately. Priority channel." Hours later, in the vast chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives from 200 worlds watched the battle footage in stunned silence. When the last image faded, the chamber erupted in voices. "This is clearly propaganda," shouted the Drazari representative, "manufactured by the humans to give false hope to their doomed resistance." "The footage comes from our own observer," replied the council moderator, a tall, willowy being whose species had been among the first to achieve space travel. "Its authenticity is beyond question." In the back of the chamber, Elder Trin watched, with ancient eyes. Unlike most council members, Trin's species had records going back millions of years, records that included warnings about species with certain traits. "I have seen this before," Trin said, voice barely above a whisper, yet somehow carrying throughout the chamber. The room fell silent as all turned to the rarely speaking elder. "Seen what, Honorable Trin?" asked the moderator. "A young species, facing extinction, pushed to its limits. Who turns those limits into advantages?" Trin's gaze swept the room. "The records of my people speak of such species. They adapt not in generations, but in moments. They take what threatens them and make it their own." Trin's eyes settled on the Drazari representative. "The humans should have been approached with diplomacy, not conquest. Your empire has awakened something dangerous." Back on Earth, as Colonel June's team returned to their hidden base with the salvaged Drazari technology, Engineer Hyun was already planning the next modifications. "If we can reverse engineer their communication systems," he explained to Director Park over their secure channel, "we can listen to every order they give, maybe even send false commands." Park nodded slowly. "How long?" 2 weeks, maybe less. "We learn faster now." And that was the secret the Drazari were only beginning to understand. Humanity, when pushed to the edge of extinction, didn't just fight back, they evolved. Dawn broke over a world changed by war. As the first light touched mountain peaks and filtered through clouds, the signal went out. Not by radio, the Drazari monitored all electromagnetic communications, but by a system humans had developed, using the aliens' own technology against them. Quantum entanglement nodes, reverse-engineered from captured Drazari scout ships, carried the simple message to resistance cells worldwide: Phoenix rises. Dawn flight begins. In an underground hangar built beneath the ruins of what had once been Incheon Airport, Captain Sung moved among the modified aircraft. Some were human jets with Drazari tech grafted onto them, awkward hybrids of Earth and alien engineering. Others were captured Drazari vessels rebuilt to accommodate human pilots. None looked pretty, but beauty wasn't the point. Survival was. "Final checks," Sung called out to the pilots gathered around him. Men and women in mismatched flight suits watched him with tired but determined eyes. "Remember your training. The Drazari rely on predictive AI for their defense systems. Be unpredictable. Do the thing that makes no sense. That's our edge." A young pilot raised her hand. "What if the shields fail?" Sung didn't sugarcoat it. "Then we die, but we take as many of them with us as we can." He looked around at the faces watching him. "Today isn't about all of us making it back. It's about making sure there's something to come back to." 200 kilometers away, in the Drazari Command Center built atop the ruins of Seoul, Commander Vrax reviewed the morning security reports. Nothing unusual. The humans were broken, scattered, reduced to hiding in the hills and forests. He allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The conquest of Earth had elevated his standing in the Empire. Once the last resistance was crushed, he would return home a hero. His reverie was interrupted by a junior officer. "Commander, atmospheric disturbances detected in Sector 7. Vrax waved a tentacled appendage dismissively. "Weather patterns. This planet has chaotic, multiple signatures, sir." Moving against the wind, Vrax's inner eyelids snapped open. "Show me." The holographic display revealed dozens of small contacts moving toward Drazari positions across the Korean peninsula. As he watched, more appeared. Hundreds now, coming from hidden locations all around the globe. "Impossible," he hissed. "The humans don't have this many aircraft left. Sir, some of these signatures match our own scout ships." Vrax's blood ran cold. "Sound the alarm. Full defensive protocols, now." The alarm came too late. Captain Sung's squadron struck the first blow, 6 modified Earth jets screaming in below the Drazari detection grid. They carried no missiles. Those had run out months ago. Instead, they deployed devices engineered by Hyun and his team, electromagnetic pulse generators built using Drazari power cores. The command center's lights flickered and died as the first wave hit. Emergency systems kicked in, but they were Earth-manufactured backups inferior to Drazari technology. For precious minutes, the aliens were blind. "Get our fighters in the air!" Vrax shouted. On the Council observation vessel, Greel watched in fascination as the battle unfolded. He had remained in Earth orbit after sending his initial report, compelled by scientific curiosity. What he witnessed now defied everything he knew about warfare. The humans were using modified Drazari scout ships in ways that made no logical sense. They flew them directly at ground defenses, pulling away at the last possible moment. They executed maneuvers that should have torn the vessels apart. They deliberately flew into their own EMP fields, having clearly modified their ships to withstand the pulses that disabled Drazari systems. "Are you recording this?" he asked his crew, not for the first time. "Every moment," his communications officer confirmed. "The Council is watching the feed in real time." In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives of 200 worlds watched. The battle unfolded with reactions ranging from horror to admiration. The Drazari ambassador had stormed out, but most remained, transfixed by what they were seeing. "This cannot be happening," said the representative of the Trill Collective, a species known for their logical minds and careful planning. "The humans are flying those ships on paths that our simulations would classify as suicidal. And yet they live," noted the moderator. "Perhaps our simulations are incomplete." Back on Earth, Major Sun's ground forces moved on the Drazari command center while the air battle drew away the enemy's attention. They didn't have the numbers for a traditional assault, so they had become something else, part saboteur, part commando, part shadow. Sun led from the front, a slender woman whose quiet voice belied her iron will. Under her command, human fighters moved through the ruins of Sol wearing armor cobbled together from Drazari tech and Earth materials. The aliens had superior strength and built-in natural weapons, but humans had learned to exploit weaknesses in their exoskeletons, joint points where a precisely applied strike could cripple. Inside the command center, Vrax was receiving reports of ground forces breaching the perimeter when the main doors to the command deck blew inward. Through the smoke came Major Sun's team, wielding weapons that the Drazari commander recognized with shock as modified versions of his own troops' rifle arms. "Impossible," he said for the second time that day. "You can't have learned to use those so quickly." Major Sun didn't bother to answer. She simply fired. The battle for the command center was brief but brutal. The humans had surprise and determination. On their side, the Drazari had biological advantages and the defensive position. What the aliens lacked was the desperate creativity that comes from fighting for one's very existence. In the Galactic Council chamber, a collective gasp went up as Greel's transmission showed humans breaching the command center. Elder Trin's ancient eyes narrowed. "Note how they move," the elder said softly. "Not as a military unit, but as hunters. They're remembering something older than their civilization." The Council watched as the humans secured the command center, disabling rather then killing when possible. This was not the blind rage of primitives, but the calculated fury of a species that had drawn a line. This far, no further. When Major Sun's team raised the tattered Earth flag over the Seoul Command Center, a signal went out to all resistance. Forces, the Phoenix has landed. I repeat, the Phoenix has landed. All across Earth, humans who had been hiding, surviving, planning for this moment, emerged from the shadows. The Drazari Empire had made a fatal mistake. They had believed that breaking humanity's cities meant breaking humanity's spirit. They had never faced a species that grew stronger from defeat. As night fell, Captain Sung's surviving aircraft returned to base. Of the 26 that had launched that morning, only 17 returned. But they had accomplished their mission, the distraction that allowed ground forces to take the command center. In the quiet aftermath, as humans began to count their losses and their gains, the galactic observers remained. They watched, recorded, and wondered what they had just witnessed. For the first time in known history, a pre-FTL civilization had defeated a galactic power. In the council chamber, the silence was profound. The implications were clear to all. If humans could do this while trapped on their own world, what would they do once they reached the stars? 2 weeks after the liberation of Earth's major command centers, the newly formed Earth Defense Council gathered in what had once been a university lecture hall in Singapore. Maps and holographic displays covered the walls, some showing Earth's surface with the remaining Drazari strongholds marked in red, others displaying the space above their planet. Admiral Kang stood before them, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair and eyes that had seen too much death. Before the invasion, she had commanded a destroyer in the Pacific Fleet. Now she commanded Earth's first space navy. "We've secured 87% of Earth's surface," she said, her voice steady and calm. "But as long as the Drazari hold the moon base, they control orbital supremacy. Every day we wait, they could receive reinforcements." Director Park nodded, looking older than his 52 years. "Can we reach the moon with what we have?" Kang turned to the holographic display showing the 16 captured Drazari vessels that had been made flight-worthy. These ships were designed for atmospheric and near-orbit operations, but we've modified them for extended space travel. Engineer Hyun has integrated our understanding of their propulsion systems with our own rocket technology. "Will it work?" asked one of the council. Members. Engineer Hyun stepped forward. Unlike most in the room, he smiled easily. The past 2 weeks had been the most exciting of his life. "We've done 4 unmanned test flights to high orbit. The modifications work better than the original Drazari designs. Their engineers were conservative," Admiral Kang continued. "We've trained 60 pilots in simulator programs. Not ideal, but it's what we have. The plan is to take the moon base intact, along with the larger ships docked there." "And if you can't take it intact?" Director Park asked. "Then we destroy it," Kang said without hesitation. "But that's the last resort. We need those ships if we are going to protect Earth from future attacks." The vote was unanimous. Operation Starfire would begin in 3 days. In his observation vessel orbiting Earth, Xinthan diplomat Greel watched with growing fascination as the humans prepared for space combat. His reports to the Council had made him something of a celebrity among his peers. He was no longer just documenting the fall of a primitive species, but witnessing the birth of something unprecedented. "They're modifying the Drazari ships again," his sensor officer reported. Greel moved to the observation screen. "Show me." The images revealed humans swarming over the captured vessels, welding new components to their hulls, replacing control systems, adding what appeared to be primitive but effective weapon mounts. "Have you ever seen anything like this?" Greel asked. The officer, a veteran of 3 interstellar conflicts, shook his head. "Never. Most species take decades to understand alien technology. The humans, they don't just use it, they remake it. On sea." The morning of the launch, Captain Jin stood before his boarding team in the hangar bay of what had once been a Drazari patrol craft, but was now renamed Vengeance. The 20 men and women wore modified Drazari environmental suits over their makeshift armor. "This won't be like fighting on Earth," Jin told them, his voice carrying in the cavernous space. "Low gravity, vacuum conditions if the hull is breached. The Drazari have the home advantage. A young soldier raised her hand. Then why are we smiling, Captain? Jin grinned despite himself, because they think we're just dumb monkeys who got lucky. They don't know we've been training for this moment. Since we took Seoul. The soldier nodded, satisfied. Around her, the rest of the team checked their weapons. A mix of human firearms modified to work in vacuum and captured Drazari energy weapons that Engineer Hyun's team had improved with higher capacity power cells. Admiral, Kang's voice came over the intercom. All ships, final checks complete. Launch in 5 minutes. Jin looked at his team one last time. Remember, we need Drazari prisoners, especially their commanding officers. They know things about their empire that we need to learn. The fleet of 16 ships rose from hidden bases across Earth, breaking atmosphere in a formation that would have been impossible for them just weeks earlier. Humans had always adapted quickly, but the invasion had accelerated that trait to an almost unbelievable degree. On the moon base, High Commander Zell received the alert with disbelief. 16 ships? The humans don't have that many operational. Vessels. His second-in-command checked the sensor readings again. Sir, these are our own ships. Patrolcraft and interceptors we thought destroyed in the fighting. Zell's inner eyelids flicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. Launch all fighters. Target their engines. We need to capture those vessels and find out how they got them operational. But the Drazari fighters were too slow to respond. The human fleet didn't follow any predictable attack pattern. Instead of forming up for a traditional assault, they broke into 4 groups, each approaching from a different angle, using the moon's surface to mask their approach. Admiral Kang's voice was steady over the comm system. Group 2, draw their fighter screen away from the base. Group 3, target their communication array. Group 1 and 4, prepare for landing approach. Captain Jin felt the vengeance shudder as it entered the moon's minimal atmosphere. Around him, his boarding team made final weapon checks. The ship's pilot, a former commercial airline pilot named Hana, called back from the cockpit. 30 seconds. To touchdown. They're scrambling ground defenses. The landing was harder than ideal. A controlled crash more than a proper touchdown. The moment the ship stopped moving, Jin hit the door release. Go, go, go! His team poured out onto the lunar surface, moving in the bounding leaps they'd practiced for days in Earth's flight simulators. The Drazari defenders fired from entrenched positions, but their aim was poor. They hadn't expected humans to adapt so quickly to lunar gravity. In orbit above the moon, Admiral Kang coordinated the battle from her flagship. She watched as Captain Jin's team breached the main airlock of the moon base, while a second boarding team attacked from the opposite side. Status on the Drazari cruisers? She demanded. Still docked, Admiral. They're rushing to power up, but they weren't prepared for an attack. Kang allowed herself a small smile. Keep Group 2 engaged with their fighters. I want those cruisers intact. Inside the moon base, Jin's team moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency. They had studied the layouts captured from Drazari computers after taking the Seoul Command Center. The aliens had built their facilities with a predictable logic that now worked against them. Command Center should be through the next section, Jin told his team as they paused at a junction. Heavy resistance likely, but when they breached the doors they found only 4 Drazari officers, including High Commander Zell himself. The aliens had been caught completely unprepared, still trying to organize their defense. Zell stood slowly, his alien features unreadable to human eyes. How? He asked simply. How did primitives like you learn to fly our ships in mere weeks? Jin kept his weapon trained on the commander. We watched, we learned, we improved. He motioned to 2 of his team. Secure them for transport. Admiral Kang will want to speak with the commander personally. Outside, the space battle was ending almost as quickly as it had begun. The Drazari fighters, designed for combat against other Drazari vessels or similarly advanced alien craft, found themselves outmaneuvered by human pilots, flying in ways no proper military would attempt. They're flying too close to the surface, one Drazari pilot reported in panic. They'll crash. But the humans didn't crash. They skimmed meters above the lunar landscape, using the terrain for cover, engaging in maneuvers that skirted the edge of their ship's structural integrity. In the Galactic Council chamber, the representatives watched the battle through Greel's transmission. Elder Trin nodded slowly. They fly like they're part of their machines, the ancient being observed. Not as operators, but as extensions of the vessel itself. Within 3 hours, the moon base had fallen. 3 Drazari cruisers, ships capable of true interstellar flight, were captured intact, along with dozens of smaller vessels. High Commander Zell and his senior staff were taken prisoner, providing Earth with its first detailed information about the Drazari Empire and its place in the galactic political structure. As Admiral Kang walked through the captured moon base, she paused to look through a viewport at the Earth hanging in the black sky. For the first time since the invasion, her homeworld was truly safe. And now, with these ships, humanity could take its place among the stars. On her command ship, a message waited, the first of many that would arrive in the coming days. 3 different council species, impressed by humanity's resourcefulness and seeing an opportunity, had opened diplomatic channels. The message was simple. We wish to speak with Earth's representatives about matters of mutual interest. The stars, once impossibly distant, were now within reach. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light reflected from 1,000 crystalline surfaces. Representatives from 200 worlds filled the tiered seating, their bodies ranging from nearly human to utterly alien. The air buzzed with translation devices working overtime as heated discussions broke out everywhere. Order! We will have order! The moderator's amplified voice cut through the chaos. A tall, willowy being with skin like polished silver, the moderator had served for 300 years, longer than any human nation had existed. Yet even this ancient diplomat seemed shaken by recent events. The council recognizes the representative of the Noor collective, the moderator announced. A being composed of swirling light within a transparent containment field floated to the center platform. Esteemed colleagues, the Noor representative began, 3 weeks ago we watched as a pre-FTL civilization not only repelled a Drazari invasion, but seized their technology and took the fight to the stars. Since then, these humans have liberated not only their homeworld, but 3 other planets under Drazari control. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Everyone had seen the reports, but hearing it stated so plainly made the accomplishment more real and more frightening. The Ventari homeworld is free because of human intervention, continued the Noor. The Kultok mining colonies are free. The Shivan agricultural world is free. These humans, who had never left their own solar system before, somehow understood the Drazari control systems well enough to disable them without harming the native populations. On the Drazari side of the chamber, Ambassador Loth rose to his feet. These accusations are preposterous. The humans are barbarians who stole our technology. They did what your empire claimed was impossible, interrupted Elder Trin, the oldest member of the council. The ancient being's voice was soft, yet somehow reached every corner of the chamber. They adapted. They survived. They freed others from Drazari tyranny. The moderator raised all 4 of his hands. We will hear all perspectives, but in order. The Drazari Empire will have its time to speak. He gestured to a side entrance of the chamber. Now, as voted by emergency session, we welcome the representatives of Earth. The massive doors slid open and a hush fell over the council chamber. 3 humans entered, walking with the careful steps of those unused to the artificial gravity. They wore simple uniforms, dark blue with no markings except a patch showing Earth as seen from space. Ambassador Song led the human delegation. Just 6 months ago, she had been a university professor specializing in international relations. Now she represented her entire species before the galaxy. Behind her walked Admiral Kang and Dr. Lee, humanity's military and scientific leaders. Representatives of Earth, the moderator acknowledged them, you stand before the Galactic Council, the oldest continuous governing body in known space. Your presence here is unprecedented. No species has ever addressed this council before achieving independent, faster-than-light travel. Ambassador Song stepped forward. Though her heart pounded, her voice remained steady. We thank the council for this honor. Earth did not seek conflict with the Drazari Empire or any other galactic power. We were attacked without provocation, our cities destroyed, our people hunted. We fought back because we had no choice. From the Drazari section came angry hisses, quickly silenced by the moderator. In the past 3 weeks, Song continued, we have learned much about the galaxy we now find ourselves part of. We have learned that the Drazari Empire's attack on Earth violated your Council's most basic laws regarding contact with pre-FTL civilizations. We have learned that we were not their first victims. She gestured to Admiral Kang, who activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the center of the chamber. Devastated cities on different worlds. Drazari control centers. Prison camps filled with aliens of various species. These images were taken from the Drazari's own records, found in their command ships, Kang explained. They document systematic violations of Council law on 12 different worlds over the past 30 years. The chamber erupted again. Many Council members rose to their feet, translation devices struggling to keep up with the outbursts in dozens of languages. Dr. Lee stepped forward next, her small frame somehow commanding attention as the noise subsided. We have also learned that much of what the Drazari claimed as their superior technology was actually stolen from other species. Their shield systems are modified Ventari designs. Their propulsion technology is based on Noor principles. Even their weapons are adaptations of Shivan mining tools. Ambassador Loth surged to his feet again. These are lies. The humans manipulated our data. The data has been verified by Council technicians, the moderator stated flatly. Ambassador Loth, your continued outbursts test the Council's patience. Ambassador Song took center stage again. The people of Earth come before you today not seeking vengeance, but justice. Not just for ourselves, but for all worlds that have suffered under Drazari aggression. She paused, looking around the chamber, making eye contact with as many representatives as possible. We are new to your galactic community. We have much to learn about your customs, your technologies, your ways of life. But there are some principles that seem to be universal. Respect for sovereignty, protection of the vulnerable, accountability for those who abuse power. The chamber had grown completely silent now, 200 species holding their breath, or whatever passed for breathing among their kind. Earth requests 3 things of this council, Song continued. First, recognition of humanity as a sovereign galactic power, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. Second, an investigation into Drazari violations of Council law, with appropriate consequences. Third, a program of technological and cultural exchange to help Earth integrate peacefully into the galactic community. She lowered her voice slightly. We do not come as conquerors. The ships we have captured, the technologies we have adapted, these were necessities of survival, not tools of expansion. Earth seeks friends among the stars, not subjects. The moderator conferred quietly with several senior council members, then turned back to the chamber. The council will now vote on the human requests. As is our custom for matters of such importance, we will use the ancient method. Crystalline. Orbs materialized before each representative, glowing blue, red, or green to indicate yes, no, or abstain. The vote took less than 5 minutes. By a vote of 173 to 24, with 3 abstentions, the Council recognizes Earth as a sovereign galactic power, the moderator announced. By similar margins, the Council approves an investigation into Drazari activities and the establishment of a cultural technological exchange program. The moderator paused, then added, furthermore, by a vote of 161 to 36, the Council suspends the Drazari Empire's membership until the investigation is complete and reparations are made to affected worlds, including Earth. Ambassador Loth and the Drazari delegation stormed out of the chamber, threats and curses flowing from their translator devices. Few council members even noticed their departure, attention still fixed on the humans. Ambassador Song bowed slightly. Earth thanks the Council for its wisdom and fairness. We look forward to working together for a more just and peaceful galaxy. As the human delegation departed, Elder Trin moved to the moderator's side. Well, the ancient being said softly, that changes everything. You believe the humans are sincere, the moderator asked. I believe they are human, Trin replied, capable of great compassion and terrible fury. They adapted Drazari military technology in weeks, then used it to free other worlds before their own was fully secure. Trin's ancient eyes watched the doors through which the humans had departed. We have just witnessed the birth of either our greatest allies or our most formidable adversaries. The galaxy will never be the same. Outside the council chamber, Ambassador Song took a deep breath. Admiral Kang put a hand on her shoulder. "You did well," the Admiral said. "Now the real work begins." Song nodded. "Earth has its place among the stars now. Let's make sure it's a place we can be proud of." As their ship departed the massive council station, Earth appeared in the viewport, blue, beautiful, and for the first time in its long history, not alone in the universe. The stars that had once seemed so distant now represented possibility, connection, and a future limited only by humanity's imagination. The galaxy had never seen anything like humans before. It was about to find out what that really meant.